I've actually got a PowerPoint, but I'm not really ready. So, Yani, bear with me in today's talk. But it's going to be more about Egypt than anything else. Taban, right at the end, you'll get to see the video of the summary video of the whole trip. All I can say is, when I watched it earlier this morning, or earlier this afternoon, the actual video brought tears to my eyes. I don't know what it is, but it feels like we're in a dream that was too good to end, and someone woke us up. And I feel like saying, can you please put me back in the dream? Is there a way of going back there again? But Taban, it's not going to be beneficial to those that didn't attend Egypt for us to just talk about Egypt. So there has to be some sort of a spiritual benefit from the talk, firstly. Secondly, for those that went, I think this will be an opportunity to reflect on the trip, but more importantly on myself, what this trip has done for me. And this is why I thought we begin by this slide, it's all about me. And it is. It's all about each of you. We live in a world that really tells us that it is all about me, but in the wrong way. It's all about me in that I want everything to work for me to succeed in my job, for me to find the right partner, for me to be married, for me to come first, for me to win the trophy, for me to be the person that is recognized, for me. But really, that's what the world says. Whereas us in the church, when I say here it's all about me, what I mean here is I need to be thinking about what's going to happen to me once I leave this life. What am I doing for me so that I may inherit the eternal life? It's a different me. This is more about my salvation. Because believe it or not, the one thing I was hoping for going on that trip, I was hoping to witness transformation. And I did. What was the transformation? The transformation is us changing. If we look at a biblical perspective, St. Paul, in his epistle to the Romans, chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, begs us. Says to us here, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. If I sit down, I think I fall asleep while I'm talking, so I'm going to stand up. What is St. Paul talking about here? My life, when I said to you, it's all about me. It is all about me presenting myself as a living sacrifice. Presenting myself as a living sacrifice that is holy and acceptable before God. And St. Paul makes it really easy for us, which is your reasonable service. You are called to serve. A lot of the time, we think about, it's all about me. In conforming to the world tells you it's all about you. It's all about your dress. It's all about your car. It's all about your hair. It's all about your eyes. It's all about your body weight. It's all about your fitness. It's all about your money. It's all about your bank account. It's all about your success. It's all about your university degrees that are on the wall. And that's the wrong me. St. Paul very clearly says to us, do not be conformed to this world. If you want to present yourself as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, this will happen through your service. You look at us in the airport, and I've picked on a few people here that were sitting on the floor. Guess what they were doing in the airport? Playing cards. These things that very few of us witnessed, for me it was very big. This is the group I'm taking to Egypt. In the airport, they were fighting. Al-Basha was tackling everyone. واحد أقول له يا بيير, enough يا بيير. Pierre is tackling and fighting. And we seemed like a group that was just going for fun. But what actually happened is I saw the transformation. There was a transformation, and you'll see it throughout the photos. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your paths. Trust in the Lord, yes, there's something different about this trip. And in my service, when I come to present myself as a living sacrifice to God, the key to that is for me to trust God in my service. Trust that He will lead me in the right path. Trust that when I present myself to Him, I will be transformed. It's always a question that I keep asking myself. Will I ever change? Will me change? It's hard, Abuna. Why? I'm just addicted to the conformation to the world. I'm addicted to my sins. I'm addicted to my weaknesses. I'm addicted to all the wrong things. That which I will not to do is what I practice, as St. Paul said. I found it hard to get out. No, there is a way out. What's the way out? Trust in the Lord. Ask Him. Beg Him. Fight with Him. Wrestle with Him every day, every time you pray. God, do you like me the way I am? Because I don't. And it's not that I don't like me because my degree is not the best, or my looks are not the best, or I'm not rich. No, I don't like me because of the sin that I'm falling into. And you said, trust me and you'll direct my path. I want to trust you, and I want you to transform me. This trust in the Lord is repeated a lot. In Proverbs 3, 5 and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean on your understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your path. In Psalms, David says it again. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and feed on His faithfulness. Delight yourself also in the Lord, and He shall give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in Him, and He shall bring it to pass. He shall bring forth your righteousness as the light and your justice as the noonday. Is it possible for me to be transformed? Absolutely. This transformation requires trust in God. And that trust in God allows me to present myself to God as a sacrifice. This was the first monastery that we visited, the monastery of St. Paul, Ambapola. And this was specifically in the mazar of Abuna Fanus. a man who truly trusted in God. What was so special about Abuna Fanus? Abuna Fanus is someone whose hands used to light up. And the story was that when he first went to this monastery, he was a novice. And the one thing that all novices had to do was to clean the bathrooms. And he enjoyed it to the extent that even when he became a monk, he insisted on cleaning the bathrooms. He said, no one takes this from me. And it didn't matter how older he became in the monasticism, he insisted on cleaning these bathrooms. And the story that I've been told was that once upon a time when he was celebrating the Eucharist, one of the visitors found out that he is the same monk that cleans the bathroom and refused to have communion from him. How can I have communion from the hands that have to wash the filth? And this is where his hand started to light up. That's why he was called Abuna Fanus. Or he is Abuna Fanus Aslan, but his hands used to light up to the extent that he used to always wear a glove so that he can hide it. And this is the first liturgy that we prayed in Egypt at St. Anthony's Monastery. We prayed in the cave that's at the bottom of the path up to the cave of St. Anthony. And obviously we visited the church of the retreat house. That's the retreat house of Abuna Philemon. Yes? Am I wrong? I think that's the church of the retreat house. The other one was bigger. Is the other one the Church of the Resurrection? No, the cave. The cave is the Church of the Resurrection, sorry. No, but this second one is in the retreat house. But praying over there is different. Those of you that attended the liturgy must have felt how beautiful and how spiritual being in a place that has dwelt in prayer, not for 100 years, not for 200 years, but we were seeing some icons that are from the 3rd century and 2nd century and 1st century, 2,000 years old. So what do I need to do? I need to commit. I need to commit myself so that I can serve, and through my service I will connect with God. And to be able to serve, I need to use Christ as an example. This icon is actually from one of the churches in Monastery of St. Anthony. And that's my phone picture, by the way. And this icon is Abraham presenting Isaac as a sacrifice. Presenting his only son. And even when we did Genesis, you find it's as if God was teasing him. Abraham, Abraham, take your son, your only son, the one whom you love. And here it's like the church or God saying to us, Isaac saying that Isaac is in front of us, take yourself, your only self, yourself which you love, and offer it as a sacrifice to God. This is the church that has the icon. It's called the church, they call it Ain Samar. It's a copy of the architecture of the church of St. Mary Izzatun, and it's at the top of one of the mountains in the monastery of St. Anthony. And then this is us at the Church of St. George. This is the Roman Orthodox Church that's in St. George, where we met Mark's twin. This is where we met the priest of that church, is Mark's twin. I was hoping Marco would be here, because at Abu Sufyan Nunnery, this is Marco's brother. Yes, that picture is me with Marco's brother. He works at the gate of St. Abu Sufyan Nunnery I was hoping that it'd be Mark walking in. I don't know what Pierre and Pierre and Muhib were doing in that church. But inside the church of St. George, there's a photo on my phone. I don't know why I took it. But the two of them, واحد قاعد رجل على رجل والتاني قاعد, it's like they're not in a church. And God knows what Marina was doing in the back. And that last photo at the top is in the nunnery of St. Theodore, where they really put out a banquet to receive us. And then there was a group photo at the pyramid. I think one of the nicest days we spent. It was an early start at the pyramids, but it was beautiful. And then, of course, at the mill of Pope Carolus. There was something special about that mill. This is the mill that he lived in before he became Pope, while he was just monk, Abu Namina al-Mutawahid. There's a huge church around that now. But at the time that Pope Carolus lived in it, it was in the middle of nowhere. Now it's full of... So therefore we were talking about following the example of Christ. What was the example of Christ? The example of Christ was that he served. And he gave us that in an example. In the Gospel of St. John, chapter 13, verses 12 to 17, he says to us, "So when he had washed their feet, taken his garments, and sat down again, he said to them, 'Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you say, well, for so I am. If then your Lord and teacher have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have given you an example, that you should do as I have done to you. Most assuredly, I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is he who is sent greater than he who sent him. If you know these things, blessed are you if you do them.'" It is our call to serve. And it's our call to serve in imitating God. The nice thing I have here is I have one of the videos when the actual service began. And they were actually, the guys from Egypt were amazed. I was actually beyond amazed. Because this is the group that was playing cards in the airport. Didn't want to really, some of them didn't look like they were even interested in the service. And then, something happened with my computer. What's wrong? Marco, what did you do? Did you do something, Marco? Okay. And they all attacked these boxes. We arrived there on a Sunday. This is the Sunday of the eve of the Feast of the Epiphany. And we were supposed to arrive there, spend a couple of hours preparing ourselves, and then go to the Mass in Alexandria. There's something wrong with the video, but that's all right. And everybody spent a couple of hours actually preparing the food boxes and preparing the bags that we were going to take out to the villages that we were going to visit. And the service began. Philippians 2, verses 5 to 8, "Let this mind be in you which was also in Christ, who being in the form of God did not consider it robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, taking the form of a bondservant, and coming in the likeness of men, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself and became obedient to the point of death, even the death of the cross." It was very funny because everybody put their hands together to serve. No one complained, "Do this harder, do this harder, do this harder." It's like the Spirit committed themselves to serve. God, they trusted in God. It's like God took over. Even Pierre was carrying boxes. Even Pierre was packing bags. Everybody was there, and literally what they thought we needed a couple of days to do, we did in 2 hours. Why do I say they thought we need a couple of days to do? This wasn't the first time We had some servants from Egypt helping us. Yeah? حتشوفوهم دلوقتي كلكم. But these same servants are the servants that helped when I took the other group, of which Anthony was a part. In September, we did this service week. We packed boxes, and we had 100 people, not 27. So we were 27, صح? Actually, as a matter of fact, we were only 25, because Abuna Gabriel hadn't arrived yet. Abuna Gabriel, we were 24. Abuna Gabriel, Jerome and Fadi arrived that night, 20 minutes before us having to get on the bus to go to Alexandria to attend the Mass. So when the guys that were preparing calculated the number of bags and boxes we had to do, the 100 spent the whole night, 100 people spent a whole night of 6 hours to prepare the bags and boxes in September. And they did something like 5 times or 4 times the number that we did. Hi, David. So they estimated that we would, according to the amount of time it took last time, they thought we would take 2 nights to do this. We did it in 2 hours. How? They don't know. I don't know. But it happened. Why? Because God was there. And He was blessing. This was the first day of service. And in that first day of service, we went and visited an elderly home. And I never expected, this is like a public confession, I never expected visiting an elderly home to be beneficial in any way or form. But it was like we were meeting Christ. It's like we were washing the feet of God. I'm only putting some of the photos. I didn't want to put all the photos, because I think a lot of the work that was done there by you guys will be rewarded in heaven. And it should stay in heaven. But these are some of the people we met. Some of the simple, old, helpless people that are living on the support of this home, which is run by some Indian nuns that are in a house that follows Mother Teresa. Each one of these people that we went to serve, thinking that we will be giving them, turned out that we were taking more than what we were giving. Each one of them touched our hearts in his own way. One of them, and I didn't attend it, but I was told, gave a sermon to some of the youth that were there. I didn't hear it, but I was told of how capable he was. It's like God was speaking to them. And there a transformation happened to everyone, especially Pierre. What happened to Pierre? He went from the troublemaker to the one in trouble. It's a miracle. Yeah, I know everybody here is laughing, but somehow Michael, I felt like Pierre was in Michael's hand and Michael did this. Because all I saw is I was standing, and in the corner of my eyes I saw Pierre flip in the air and land on his head. And seriously, it's like someone flicked him. Honestly, I've never seen that before. I saw Pierre exactly do this. And his head hit the floor. It made a lot of noise. And then all I could see is the haram Pierre on the floor, and he's going, oh. I didn't put there's another photo which I didn't put, because in half an hour, when Dr. Muhib مشي, Dr. Muhib told him that he's going to have an aneurysm and that his head is going to explode, because his head started, you know how when you watch cartoons and that started happening to Pierre, his head started to go out. So then we got ice, and because Pierre couldn't be bothered holding the ice to his head, he tied it to his head. And then we didn't have a sling, so someone's scarf became his sling. So I want you to imagine, get the picture, someone standing with ice wrapped to his head and a sling that's made out of a scarf. But he looked like he broke his clavicle, and he looked like he did a lot of damage to his head. So lo and behold, we left the service. There was a lot of food in Egypt. The rest of the group went to eat, and we took Pierre to the hospital to get x-rayed. The amazing part is, and I wish Muhab was here, with the amount of noise that we heard when his head hit the floor, and the amount of pain that he was in, you'd expect that there'd at least be some sort of a scratch. They did 2 x-rays and they said, Pierre, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. And that was the miracle, that was the transformation. Pierre طبعا اتعادل بقية الرحلة by force because he couldn't move يا حرام. And you'll see it in the movie, in the video at the end. But it was, each one of us was touched in his own way. And it's like because we committed ourselves to God, that God spoke to each of us in our own way. Through these people, through every encounter that we had. Then Jesus said to his disciples, if anyone desires to come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross and follow me. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. In service, I need to lose my life. I need to lose me. Stop looking for me, but look for Christ. Because this is the only way I will save me. He who finds his life will lose it. And he who loses his life for my sake will find it. God repeated this a number of times. What always stands in our way to serve is our life, our wants, our needs, our desires. And they always stand in our way and they always distract us. One day it'll be our jobs, one day it's going to be our kids, one day it's going to be our husbands and our wives. They're all. But what we need to do is to deny ourselves and follow God. And this was the first village that we visited. I didn't put a lot of photos because I didn't want, again, for us to lose. But this was the photo of us with the Abuna that looks after that church, the whole group. And this is a photo of one of the kids with the beautiful red bag on her back. And these are the bags that we handed out to them so that they can use at church. The day after that was probably the most special day for everyone. It was the day that hurt me the most. And I think it's the day that transformed everybody that was with me the most. It was the same difficult day when I went in September. It was the most difficult day I had to attend. It was just as difficult. You'll tell me, why was it difficult? Because we are talking about serving kids that are very easily, I could say, life has not been fair to them. I know this is a very atheistic view when you say that life hasn't been fair to them. But I think they are God's gift to those who want to enter heaven. They are a gift. If you look after these people, something just absolutely different. Anthony's friend loved the fact that Anthony had no hair like him. Simple. But for him, that made a lot of difference. And all he kept on doing to Anthony is going and hitting him on his head and saying, hey, you don't have any hair like me. you can see Jonah, and there are some videos I didn't put up, but the kids were intrigued with the fact that Jonah was suddenly this clown. And you see one of the kids actually pulling, in some of the photos, pulling the nose off and trying to see how the nose is on Jonah's nose. And I thought that was one of the nicest things that I witnessed throughout the trip. And I was saying to you how God emptied himself. We had one of our own servants emptying himself, happy to stand for the joy of the children. You have one of these kids that decided to paint Anna's forehead the same way that Anna was painting his forehead. He thought, if she's doing it for me, it's like these kids wanted to give back, same way that they were receiving. I will never forget Misail, young Misail. As soon as he saw me, he came, sat on my lap, took the cross and put it on my head, and then on his head. It's like he's saying, I'm praying for you, pray for me. Something very special about Misail. What we need to remind ourselves is that true greatness in the kingdom doesn't come from lording over others, but from serving one another. If I felt any feeling of greatness, it was when I was serving these kids. One of the two miracles that kind of happened when we were in this very, very special house, the house of the disabled kids. The first is that when the servants that were serving, I had a group of servants that were preparing for us in Egypt, and when they were trying to come up with ideas to make these kids happy, they met at a McDonald's, preparing for the things that we were going to do. And while they were in McDonald's, one of the girls that works there came to them and gave them an advertisement about how McDonald's can do parties. They can do McDonald's parties, but in Egypt, they actually go out to do the parties. So you don't have to come to McDonald's for the party to happen. This story might be the first time for some of you to hear, because I haven't said it to anyone yet. In Egypt, they're willing to come and host a party at your home. And they'll bring the sandwiches, and they'll bring everything, and that's what they did for us. So one of the servants looked at it and thought this was a really nice idea for these kids, because it's very, very hard to take all these kids, because they are kids of special needs, and take them to a McDonald's. So the servant that was there said, oh, what a nice idea. We'll ask McDonald's to come on that day, and that will become the lunch that we present during our service. Lo and behold, no one knows this, but in the actual house, this house of special needs, the servants of that house, just before Christmas, had a problem in that these kids, like I said to you, are disadvantaged. I said something, and forgive me for saying it, life has been unfair to them. But some of them, their families are happy to receive them on the feast days, to spend a couple of days with their family, and then they send them back to the house. But the servants of the house have a group that no one wants them. Their families don't want them. So they end up having to stay in the house, even on the feast day. So the two servants felt very bad and thought, we need to do something different for these kids, because they don't feel the feast. So they came up with the idea to take the kids, the 7 or 8 kids, to McDonald's. And they went to Abuna that supervises the house. Abunas can be very, very tough sometimes. Very, 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 very tough. And I said to him, Abuna would like to take these 7 kids that don't have a house to go to McDonald's. Abuna said to them, no, you can't do that. Because if you do that, you'll make these kids feel different compared to all the ones that went with their families. McDonald's in Egypt is not like McDonald's here. It's actually a very big thing to go to McDonald's. Only the rich can go to McDonald's. Because a trip to McDonald's could be a family's entire month's income. Abuna said to them, if you do that, the ones that went to their families will be very, very upset because they missed out on McDonald's. And unless you can take all the 41 kids to McDonald's when they come back, don't do it. For the servants, Taban, saw 41 kids to McDonald's. Abuna wants us to go broke. And I said, it's impossible. This can't happen, and it's not going to happen. And this discussion between the servants happened on Thursday. The servants and Abuna on the Thursday. On the Friday, Marina, the servant that was at McDonald's and was given the brochure from McDonald's, called the house and said to them, do you mind if we bring McDonald's to the house to give you lunch for the 41 kids the day that we come to serve you? The two servants in the house were in disbelief as to how this came about. Here we are. McDonald's is going to come all the way to us, and it's going to feed all 41 kids, something that they thought was impossible. So this was the first thing that happened. Second great thing that happened is they have a boy there, and I won't mention his name, but this boy was autistic. And this boy had, the lady that looks after the house told me he's been down, and he's one of the boys that did not go home. It's just, autistic people apparently when they're down, they're very, very difficult. And one of the things that they do a lot apparently is they start doing this action, or like, it's just very, very unhappy. And Taban, I haven't studied these things, and I've never worked with autistic people. But I was standing, part of the day service, we went outside to play games with them after the games that were played inside. And while they were playing games outside, I could see this autistic boy doing this and just going, it's like he's flying around the area where some of the servants that are here were. And then the lady comes and says to me, Abuna, can you see this? I said to her, what can I see? She said to me, can you see how the autistic boy is doing this rafrafa? They call it rafrafa. In English, like the bird, how does the bird, what's the action of flapping their wings? Can you see how he's flapping his hands? I said to her, yes, and she gets to me, for the autistic people, it means that he is so, so happy. This is the nicest reaction you can get from an autistic person. It displays happiness. He's been down for the whole last few weeks, and to see him like that, it is amazing. Why? Because he felt the love that was coming from the group, this group that was over there serving. The servants that are serving him day in and day out, he's not feeling their love as much as he felt our love. True greatness is in serving one another. True greatness is in making someone like that. There's no communication. There was no physical communication. The only communication that was communicated to that child was love. And he heard the love. He felt the love. And he communicated back to us that he can feel the love. And he sat down, called the 12 and said to them, if anyone desires to be first, he shall be last of all and servant of all. Now this true humility we felt when we sat with His Holiness. The whole group got to sit with him on one of the nights And I don't know about you, but the way he interacts with us makes you feel that he was just one of us. Did anyone in the group feel that they were talking to the Pope? Absolutely not. Other than Anna Simone, because we made fun of her name. I actually watched the videos today. David got asked if he knows what his name means. I have the video, you can watch it later. And Mohib decided to say to him, I work in medicine. I'm a doctor. So the Pope had to say to him 3 times, يعني أنت دكتور. يعني أنت مخلص. I don't know why. He had a problem believing that Mohib is a doctor. But that was true humility. If you see the way he interacted with us, the best was Isaac in the video. أنا بدرس, what did you say? قانون واستثمار. And then he says to him, these are the only Arabic words I know. Mark 10:35-37. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him saying, Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask. And he said to them, What do you want me to do for you? They said to him, Grant us that we may sit, one on your right hand and the other on your left in your glory. Do not seek glory when you serve. Because if you seek glory, you're actually stealing. Because glory is only due to God. And when you seek the glory, you're seeking what is not yours. But Jesus said to himself and to them, You know that those who are considered rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. Yet it shall not be so among you. But whoever desires to become great among you shall be your servant, and whoever of you desires to be first shall be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. One of the personalities that we met in Egypt is Samson. I don't know about the group, and it's going to be difficult to describe to those who weren't in Egypt. But truly, he was living life in a way where he wants to lose his life so that he may gain it. You felt the amazing humility. You felt the amazing emptying of self. And all of a sudden, this person, you don't hear his voice, and put him in front of some kids to serve. And it's like you've exploded a bomb out of a box. Totally different person, different personality. You truly see God shining through him. Those that were there can truly witness to that. We are all called to serve like him. I've shown you in every way, by laboring like this, that you must support the weak. And remember the words of the Lord Jesus that he said, it is more blessed to give than to receive. And is that not true? We went to give, and the more we gave, the more we received. The more we gave, the more we received. And we thought that we were rich, only to discover that we are air. We are the poorest of all. And those who were poor that we went to serve, they're the ones that were truly rich, because they gave us so much. There's so much that we took. Let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit, but in lowliness of mind let each esteem others better than himself. Let each of you look out not only for his own interests, but also for the interest of others. Let this mind be within you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, did not consider it robbery to be equal with God, but made himself of no reputation, taking the form of a bondservant and coming in the likeness of men. This is the true image of service. This is us at the second village that we visited. In this village, some of us actually went out, or all of us went out to different houses. And as you will see in some of the photos, you'll see one of the groups that actually went to deliver the fridge to one of the ladies that had been married for 13 years but never had a fridge. We're all called to serve, not lagging in diligence, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. For you, brethren, have been called to liberty, have been called to be free, have been called to liberty. Only do not use liberty as an opportunity for the flesh. Don't use your freedom as an opportunity to lose yourself, as an opportunity to conform to the world. But through love, serve one another. This was us. I had to put this photo because this is the scarf that Pierre was using as a sling for his arm. This is the scarf of love that performed the miracle through which Pierre was transformed. And this is the group that was with me. طبعا one photo is cut. معلش, that's the way the PowerPoint put it. But this is the village that we went and walked through to give. You can see the box of food carried here by Jonah and some of the bags. Where's Anna Simon? I thought I saw her. She's here. She's probably cooking. Look how angry she is in that photo. If looks could kill, I think she was angry because she was carrying the bag and Marina was carrying nothing. Only joking. Only joking. Huh? Jonah took my box. So she was upset that Jonah took your box, not her bags. Is that what you're trying to say? We have all the gifts and talents to use, and we discovered that that was the case in Egypt. All of a sudden, this group turned out to be the most talented group I could have ever taken with me. The play that they performed blew my mind. Honestly, like, I wish it was fully recorded, because I wish we could repeat it here. I don't know if it will be repeated with the same perfection. But suddenly we had lions and we had actual characters, and they were talking in Arabic, thinking Arabic is hard. But what they did over there was unbelievable. For as we have many members in one body, but all members do not have the same function, so we being many are one body in Christ, and individually members of one another, having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us. Let us use them. If prophecy, let us prophesy in proportion to our faith. Or ministry, let us use it in our ministering. He who teaches in teaching, he who exhorts in exhaustion, he who gives with liberty, he who leads with diligence, he who shows mercy with cheerfulness. I had the pleasure of attending a Sunday school lesson given by David in Arabic. And you know what? I couldn't help myself. I had to control this to keep it closed. I could see that he was struggling with the Arabic, but he was trying so hard. What was amazing is the attention that the kids gave him. Here I am wanting to interfere and help his Arabic, but the kids were happy with what he was doing. Gifts. I'm pretty sure that David wasn't talking, but God was talking through David. Because some of the words he used, I didn't think he even knew what they meant. If he would have had to open a dictionary to actually find out what they mean. But he did. I don't know how. And I didn't want to ask him because I don't think he knows how either. Romans 12:4-8. 1 Peter 4:10. As each one has received a gift, minister it to one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. This is better. After we finished service, we had the blessing of meeting this very, very special monk. I had to put his photo, Father Felixinos. And he's the tall one on next to Pierre, who's wearing the sling now, the proper sling that we bought from a pharmacy. Isaac standing behind him. Abuna Felixinos was just special. And this is in front of the altar, the most sacred altar that exists for our church in Egypt. This is the monastery of the Muharra. This is the altar that is mentioned in the Old Testament, that in the middle of Egypt there'd be an altar to the Lord. And this is the altar that we believe, or we have the faith, that is an altar that is consecrated by the hand of Christ. And then this altar, when it was consecrated, as Abuna Felixinos told everyone, God gave that monastery 3 promises. Does anyone remember the 3 promises? The first one, that there'll always be peace in that monastery. And that monastery is in a very, very difficult area of the Said. And until today, it is always full of peace. What was the second one? If you ask for anything at the altar, it will happen to you. And we had so many stories of people that went and asked for things and they happened. Inhabited at the end of time by the prayer. That's the third one, yeah. No, the second one was the peace. Third one is the peace. So the second one is whoever asks for anything at the altar will receive it. So it's, it will happen. It will be granted to you. So, in summary, to serve. Jesus has set the ultimate example for us to follow. Serving should be modeled by those who are actually in authority. Every member of this church is called to serve and is called to be involved in service. We need each other and the variety of gifts that each brings. And I think this we experienced the most in Egypt. Each person had a different gift. And each gift came together to offer a service that was unbelievable. For me, it is unforgettable. What this group managed to do in Egypt, like I said at the beginning, it's like I was in a beautiful dream, and I wish no one woke me up from it. This is St. Mary Dronka, which is another church in the Said, or another monastery. It's right at the top of the hill, and this is where they have a cave that we believe that St. Mary lived with Christ in for the time that they spent in Egypt. This was their final destination. This is where they lived before they returned back to Egypt again, back to Israel again, or Palestine. Just ask how many people are going to put their hands to serve. I'll leave that question for you to answer. Taban, after we finish service week, we have all these beautiful memories and all these beautiful photos. We went after we went to the Dronka and Muharra, we began the rest of our road trip up to Luqsor. On the way, we stopped in Ena, in the Said. We visited some monasteries there with Amba Biman. We went to Nagada, visited some monasteries, and then we began the touristy part of it, which is Luqsor Laswan on a beautiful boat. And we started seeing all these beautiful pharaonic temples. A lot of these temples were covered with Christian carvings because the church used a lot of these places as places of worship during times of persecution. And these are all unbelievable in size, in the way that they're preserved, in the way that they're carved. We had a tour guide that couldn't believe how uninterested some of our group was, to the extent that our poor Shunuda thought that this trip must have been for free. That's why they came on it, couldn't believe that they spent all this money, and the first day I think 3 or 4 of them stayed on the boat, did not come even to visit any of the temples. And his bad luck, I'd been there before with Tim and Amanda, so we'd heard the whole story, and I wasn't interested either. I think I upset him even more. But these are some of the beautiful photos. There's Mary carrying a snake. Yeah, I think she was going to kill it. But I think, and you've got Michael with the snake. I don't know what Christian was doing, but he looked like a blind man that was begging. But most important, if you look at the fear, the look of fear in George's eyes, I think he was scared because he was on Muhab's lap, not because of the snake. We will miss Egypt, and I do miss this trip, and God willing we will do it again and again and again, because it is definitely those that did not come to serve, start saving. You have to go. It will transform your life. It did transform the lives of this group. Look at their faces in this last photo. This was the day that we went to the house of the disadvantaged children, and then we met the Pope. And I must say that this day is definitely going to be a transformation in my life. It changed who I am. It changed who everybody here is. And look just at the looks on their faces. Look at the smiles. Every single one has a smile in an amazing way. Especially Anthony. Look at how big his face and how big his smile is. Everybody is smiling on that day, and that's probably that was the day of all days. Now we have, I've finished. Does anyone have any questions? I'm sure there isn't. I hope are you going to play it from my? Okay, you play with my laptop. Any questions? What, for me, I wouldn't be able to pick one highlight.